The pandemic has presented an opportunity for the mafia, especially when it comes to businesses and companies that are struggling to cope with the effects of the crisis, and they really seem to operate according to a specific pattern. They lend money to these companies, and when the money cannot be returned, then they take over these companies, or else they distribute food to struggling families. This is something that happened quite often in the south of Italy at the time of the first nationwide lockdown. But now we have seen something different, Rosie. We've seen that criminal organizations have taken to the streets. How? Well, peaceful protests that have been called by people who have been affected by the latest restrictions, people who lost their jobs, who are there to protest against the latest restrictions, are systematically infiltrated by fringe groups. Football hooligans, right-wing groups, but mainly members of criminal organizations. And authorities believe they have evidence that the mob planned a few of those, especially the one that took place in Naples a few days ago. And they seem to be having their own strategies when it comes to actually infiltrating such protests. Now, given the fact that so many groups take part in these riots, I had the chance to speak to Giuseppe Antoci. He's the president of one of the main centers here in Italy doing research on the mafia. I asked him whether all these groups are related, whether or not these groups are related, and if they have to actually respond to the mafia's orders. Take a listen.
All these different groups play their own role within the protests, but there's a common interest that unites them, which is to make peaceful protesters believe the state is bad, as it's imposing restrictions and doesn't give people any help. That's why it's crucial, and I said that many times, that funds be transferred by the government as soon as possible to those affected by the measures.
Now, Rosie, it's, as Mr. Antoci highlighted there, it's crucial that the government provides financial help to these families, also because it's possible that the situation might get worse in the coming weeks with increased police checks on the streets, limiting the mob's freedom to operate, and that would result in an increased pressure on such businesses that are going bankrupt, and eventually those people, those entrepreneurs, are going to be the ones who will pay the highest price.